go back to the comments that Judge Jansen made. And having gone through them on your Facebook page, I certainly see them feeding into or kind of deriving in some way from what you've called a Victorian concept in a way, this kind of trope of the hypersexualized, super dangerous black male. And she uses false statistics to try and back that up. And she uses what's hyperbole. There's no doubt about it. Hyperbole, you know, despite the fact that she's a judge in a court, to back up her statements. Did it ever get to a point in the discussion that you had either on the page itself or in the private messaging, which was quite short-lived, where you could actually get to that point of kind of breaking through her kind of slander and understanding the sort of myopic or misguided and blind thinking behind it?
No, because you know, I've put up the direct link to that conversation, and you'll see that it just never got there. I think, you know, there was that type of interaction from other people. Of course, there was a lot of angry interaction too, but people did question her on a technical and ethical level, and the response was to really to reinforce those beliefs. So no, it didn't get to that, and no, I did not pursue the relationship with her after that interaction. You know, because she made her point very, very clear, and then to send me a summary in my inbox really, you know, underscores that is who she is, really.
Yeah.
So no, but you know, I do want to point out that we did, I did hand it over to a legal person, and she did lodge a complaint with the JSE.
So, I mean, that notice to the SJC about, you know, lodging a complaint and querying her conduct, because she holds such a senior position and judges are held to a higher moral code almost. You know, they have to be loyal to the Constitution and the values of our democracy. And her remarks stand, I would argue, in stark contrast to that. Was that the one that was made on the weekend, or does it predate the weekend?
It predates the weekend. I don't know who made the one over the weekend. I'm really trying to find out. It predates the weekend, and apparently she did get a notice that you know, that they had received the intent to complain. And then I you know, I'm an activist. I'm not a legal person myself, so I did inbox her a few times to say, where are we at with that? And I spoke to a few other people about it to say, can we push this? And nothing really came of it. So I don't think it was followed through completely, the actual complaints. I think there were steps that needed to be taken, as in affidavits, etc. So, you know, but as I say, as an activist, I kept this thing alive by you know, every few months or so, bringing it back up and asking people questions. What are we doing about this?
Yeah.
So, yeah, I mean, I think that's it. I'm not saying the JSE did not respond. They did, but there were procedures that had to be followed, and the person who was representing my complaint, it was difficult to pin her down.
Yeah.
And so I don't think she followed through completely, but she certainly has picked it up again and is following through now.
You spoke of the media specifically. So where is, because of the institutional kind of racism or power or kind of assumption about race, perhaps the coverage is misguided. Where and why?
Okay. Well, because I think people are focusing on personal racism, and personal racism is not the real problem. It's a symptom of the real problem. The real problem is systemic and institutional racism, which is in the fabric of our society. The real problem is that white people have never really been called on to transform. It's you know, I mean, the TRC didn't do that. It didn't. It allowed white people to shift their focus and maybe repackage racism. And you know, I mean, one can say, well, liberals don't do that, but then you've got the liberal racism where, you know, you can shout about racism, but you do nothing to actually transform even your own environment that you work in. So, you know, the call for transformation has not gone deeply into the systemics of the country. We also have a situation where we do have a government that is not really dealing with it beyond the personal. Penny Sparrow. You know, going after Penny Sparrow is going to make no iota of difference to anybody's lives, the dignity of people's lives in this country. The racism is in the fact that there's 63% of South African people of whom the majority are black, living below the breadline. That is a systemic race issue. That means black people have been excluded from the economy. And it means that white people are not, shifting and transforming, and there's been no form of reparations. There's been no form of sharing privileges and allowing everybody, bringing everybody up into the dignified level of living, etc. So the entire narrative in this country, the master narrative, has remained in this common sense, whitest, racist kind of trope, and that's very clear on social media. It's very clear. It is still the dominant narrative. Yes, Black Twitter is really taking on that dominant narrative and pushing it back, and let's hope that becomes the norm, in future, because these views are anachronistic. They're highly obnoxious. They put all of us in a bad light. So there's no critical mass of white people really fighting systemic racism in this country, shouting about personal racism.